Welcome to CarePOD, a safe place to educate, inspire, and renew the caregiver. Listen in with our host, Dr. Kipley Bell, as she interviews different experts along the caregiving journey.
Karen Williams is a devoted wife and woman of God who grew up in Pemberton, New Jersey, and currently resides in Willingboro, New Jersey with her husband Eric of over 18 years. She has always had a passion to help those who have been tossed to and fro from the storms of life and guide them to getting their lives back on track. This fire was ignited when the world was faced with the global pandemic in March of 2020. And so many people, including herself, were hurting, feeling stuck, holding on to toxic secrets, and crippled by fear of the unknown. During those uncertain times, she had an overwhelming desire to empower and encourage people, especially hurting women, and completed the training to become a certified Christian life coach through the Freedom Bible Institute and Seminary in November 2020. As a result, the Friday 5-minute Faith Lift was birthed and started on January 1st, 2021 on Facebook Live. Both women and men have testified about how these 5 minutes of faith have helped and encouraged them to get through these uncertain times we currently live in. In addition, she was prompted to launch her business, Coach K Secret Place LLC, in June 2021, which provides spiritual wellness coaching to women from all walks of life. She also endeavors to provide help and hope for the caregivers of loved ones with Alzheimer's. This life-changing book was written with them in mind. In addition, she is a contributing author of the collaboration book entitled Girl, Boss Up and Lead. She believes that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Let's welcome Karen Williams to the CarePOD. So right. I am really excited that I am sitting here today with Karen Williams. We met at an impactful caregiving event for breast cancer awareness, and the women in the room began to speak about the caregiver burden and the different variables surrounding that. And wow, this woman is on fire. I said, I have to sit with Ms. Williams today and welcome her to the CarePOD. She is a thought leader. She is an author. She has a personal caregiving experience surrounding Alzheimer's and has been an encourager in that space of those going through. And so I'm very, very thankful for you taking the time to sit with us here today at the CarePOD. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Kipley.
Yeah, so tell me about your story. Take me on a little journey.
Okay, the story started like this. My mother was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's at a young age. She was, I think, about 62, 63 years old. And we noticed, some different things. We thought, minor things that, we all do, like we forget, where I put my keys or something like that, and didn't think much of it. And it wasn't until some of her friends that she would take out, they would do volunteer work, because she did a lot of volunteering work, and just taking her friends out to run their errands. And they actually had called us and said, your mom was, we were going to the bank, and it's like midway there at a traffic light, your mom actually forgot where she was going. And that, we still didn't understand, didn't get it. And then it was other times when they said, where they're going somewhere, and she would think that I'm going for, you, and she was going for herself. It was just things that started to progress. And so we got that word, and had to actually take her to a doctor to see what was going on. And that's when we got that diagnosis, which we were all in denial, the family, because this was new to us. Our mother she was the glue, she was the pillar in the family. And we were like, no, a woman of God, a woman of faith. And we just said, no, this can't be happening. But yet, when I was the one that that took her to the doctor, and sitting in the room with her, I tell you, I never experienced that, and it's like brought tears to my eyes when the doctor had to ask her like current events, like who was the president at the time, when was her, birthday, her name, and she would kind of look at me and chuckle, like, what it is, that type of thing, and that's where it started,
So
and
tell me about your family. Are you one of many siblings?
Yes, well, actually, 8 of us. There's 8 of us. Two of our siblings had died at babies. They were babies, so I still say it's still 8 of us, but 6 of us now. Three girls, 3 boys, and I'm actually the
Wow.
baby. Yes,
Wow.
yes, I'm actually a baby, and it was just a different because, like I said, mom prayed for us. If we had any kind of issues or problems, we knew where to come, for prayer or for advice, even though we were out there doing our thing. And it was really hard on everyone. But myself and my sister, who's like 2 years in front of me, we were the actually 2 last ones at home with her when this was happening. So everyone was out on their own, married, and just not at home. And when we told them, and we had a family meeting, and everyone agreed that we would all try to chip in, do what we can to see what's going to happen, and because none of us wanted to put her in a nursing facility. And we all agreed. I mean, because that's the time when, back then we was like, oh, we'll never do this. We'll never do that. And along the way, as it progressed, it really, the help didn't come. It did,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I know what it was for some of them. They couldn't take to see her decline. And but yet it was like, well, me and my sister, we're here, we're seeing that, we're witnessing that. But they lived in different parts of Delaware, New York, Florida, and that type of thing. So but it was a challenge. It was a challenge, because she was young. We said, this is an older person's disease, and we thought, like, I thought maybe with me, if she may have been in her 80s, okay, maybe I can say, okay, it still would have been hard, but you kind of would understand.
Hmm. But as
But
a young, old, thriving, younger,
exactly.
older adult
Well,
person, right?
yeah, she was,
Right.
and then and also she was working at a group home setting, and she loved her work. She was, doing volunteer work at Deborah and Buttonwood Hospital and Browns Mills, Pemberton, and she wanted to get a job, and she worked at a group home, and loved her work, and some of the people, one young lady that was a difficult person, she took her on. No one wanted to deal, and her actual name was Sarah. Never forget Sarah. Yeah, her name was Sarah, and she was very feisty and but my mom knew how to deal with her. And we thought maybe it started there because there was an incident that happened where a soda can was like thrown. I guess she was having one of her situations or times, and they said it kind of hit my mom in the head, or the story we got, like it grazed her or something. And we'll never know, but we thought that that could have started something.
Mm.
you know
So tell me, as the baby of the family, but yet being in this position to see the progressive decline of your mother, how did that transform you? how did you then have to take this leadership role in a very painful time uh, amongst your siblings to say, no, this is what it is?
Right.
And how has that transformed you personally?
Oh, it has. It's a good question because, and it's so loaded, and it transformed because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I didn't, now mind you, like I tell people, the beginning of it, I wasn't going to church, even though my mom and we knew how we were raised, but I wasn't. That wasn't my story at that time, at the beginning. And I I was angry, to to put it quite bluntly. I was resentful because I felt, like I said, being a baby, and now I'm, being thrust into this position. I didn't know what to feel, or
Mm.
how to even, put it into words. But it transformed me because I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't have any kind of support system. And it was kind of really navigating this, um, while in denial.
Mm.
Um, it transformed me because here I'm the baby. I always said me and my mom were the closest. I went to her for everything. And now I found myself, I'm taking her to doctor's appointments, and all along I said, this is not how it's supposed to be. I mean, growing up, she scraped, we scraped our knees, she put the medicine on it and we went back out to play. Nobody told me that this was going to be my new journey. And so it was, I had to work, we had to work. We still lived in a house where mortgage, because at that time my mother and father they had been divorced, for many years. And so it was like, how do I do this? And it's like, we talk about growing up. I mean, I was an adult, but it was a growing up. And but you know what it was? I was even embarrassed
Mm.
because I didn't understand. And so with that, I didn't reach out to anyone. I could have reached out to some of her, church friends or something, but I didn't.
Hmm.
And
Embarrassed because of your mother's presentation at the time, or finding yourself in a position as a caregiver?
it was both. It was both. She, when I started to see it for myself, that like, this is not my mom. This is not who I knew. Um, and I could tell the way that we kind of interacted, that it's like, she I don't think she quite knows who I am, as it was starting. And it was a scary time, for me, because I actually now was the mother, playing that role of a mother. Had no biological children, so didn't know. So I guess those instincts kicked in, nurturing, but still it was a challenge because I'm like, I'm a mother, I'm being a mother now. And like, my mother is like becoming now my child, that now she's depending on me. And it just was a scary thing because it was really, I was going through the motions.
Wow. So tell
And
me, you said you weren't really uh a person of faith in that time, angry, resentful. What do you say to the CarePod audience, the person that's listening, that's right there right now? Like, do you feel that that experience brought you to your knees, brought you closer? What about going through that experience has made you a better person?
and it actually did. It got to a point that actually, when my mother needed round the clock care, like fast forwarding, and we did have to make that the toughest decision ever, to place her in a nursing facility. Because now it's actually, my sister left, moved away, and it was just me there,
Mm.
me and my mother. And so when we placed her in the nursing facility, there was a nurse there that was a woman of faith. And even though right away, I mean, I didn't, come back into the fold, but, you know, and I engaged, like I said, for the listeners, sometimes people on here and, I, my time to feel numb. I needed to be numb of all this. So, I engage in reckless behavior is what I'll call it.
Mhm.
Okay. And people need to know the rawness of this, before I could go see her. um I may have gone to a happy hour or something,
Mhm.
just keeping it real,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
go and be able to deal and see my mother like that. But I thank God, because during that time, this one nurse always came, cared for my mom. And next thing I know, I rededicated my
Not
life
bad.
to the Lord. Yes, she was planting seeds, as I know now. And even though I saw my mother's walk and saw how she lived, but I still was, I believe I know an anger part towards God.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
at that point, it helped because during that transition, there were people praying for me that I didn't know, people that knew my mother's condition, that I would be going out doing this or doing that. And these people would actually intercept when I was getting ready, to maybe do something I shouldn't have been doing. And, people in the neighborhood, and a pastor would actually just come by and always say, Karen, you know your mom always prayed for you, and I'm praying for you, and after a while, um, it was a tug, and that's all I could really attribute it to. And I said, I had to, I started going to church and then rededicated my life to the Lord. And that was the turning point. That was the transition, because I tell people before then, and even the transition coming into the fold, and now being a woman of faith, it didn't still make it easier,
Mhm.
but it was, but I wasn't alone. I
Yeah,
wasn't
I was
alone.
just gonna say, but you knew you were in the palm of God's hand. That you really
Exactly.
always were, but you came to that realization on your own, right? Right.
Exactly,
Amazing.
yes, and that was,
Amazing.
and it was just so helpful, it was just, because, you feel like during that time, I'm just gonna lose my mind. So, God knew exactly, the plan that He had for me. And so I was so grateful for that, because it helped me. It helped a
Absolutely.
great deal.
Join the private Facebook community, International Caregiver Exchange, a global community of caregivers. Come on in and catch a glimpse of my own personal caregiver journey, all while being educated and encouraged. International Caregiver Exchange. So take us now to the pen and paper. So now you say, I'm going to write a book about this experience. Tell us the name of the book, what got you to that point, and how that was therapy in and of itself, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. And I had been thinking about so long, because not only when my mother was diagnosed, she actually lived long with it. It was like 12 plus years. And then, unbeknownst, no one could have told me my father would then be diagnosed with it. And when, my mother transitioned in 2004, 6 months after I was married, and my father, after he had gone through it, he transitioned in 2016. And it was, at that point, a little ways, I was trying to kind of get my footing, like, what do I do now when I had such a routine?
Hmm.
And um, and so I wanted to do something to honor both my mother and my father, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what that would look like. I thought about a foundation, or, a nonprofit. I wanted to do something to help other people that were sometimes with this disease suffering in silence,
Yeah.
because you don't know, who to reach out to. You don't know what to do. You feel like you're in it alone. And and then of course, social media, played a big role because I often would be looking at I always tell Pastor Joy, I just kind of like stalked, her page and stuff. And actually when I said, when I went there when at their author parties past once, that people that wrote books and I always knew was something in me, and she always would put that seed. I'm waiting for you to get that book out, out of you, and I decided it was those times, Dr. Kipley, was like, I have to do something. I don't want to be what they went through and what my experience was to go in vain without being able to help people. And when she had the cohort last, I think fall, I think starting in September, October, I said, you know what? I want to do this book. I'm going to put this, so as I'm writing, because I did journal some things. I said, I'm gonna do this. And it was scary though. And that's where I decided to write this book. And it's entitled The Roller Coaster to Remember: Help and Hope for the Caregivers of Loved Ones with Alzheimer's.
Oh, it's
And
amazing.
and that's what it was. I wanted something to really give someone to visualize this is a roller coaster. There's going to be, ups and downs, twists and turns. It's going to be, your emotions are going to be all over the place. And that's why, but even with that being said, I still wanted the reader and those that are directly impacted or indirectly impacted to know, even though you're going to go through these different emotional stages, that there's still help and hope on the
Absolutely.
horizon.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think there's something important that you said that I felt too when you spoke about, yeah, two things. I had read this statistic recently that specifically caregivers of color do not reach out for help. And it's not an ego thing. It is, or maybe it is, but it is that desire to keep your loved one's dignity intact. And when you speak about embarrassment or wanting them to know the person who greets them, or have proper decorum and behavior in a certain setting, and what if they end up behaving in a manner that's not appropriate or what have you. And so that's really a point that I that can isolate you in a sense.
Yeah.
So that I think is a really important point that you made.
Yeah, that's and that was a big part of it. You're so right. Is it seems like in communities of color where it's more prevalent, this disease, and that's even a question. Is like, why is that? When it does, why does it happen to in communities of color more? And when it does, why don't we reach out? But you hit the nail on the head, because it's like an embarrassment, and it's not anyone's fault, but you don't know that because you don't understand what's going on. And like you're saying is, what if I say, mom, don't do this, or come on, that she may resist. I can't very well, it's just really like a mother-child relationship where, with a child, you can like, okay, time out or something like that, but it's a different way. And
Absolutely.
instead of dealing with that, like you said, I before placing her in a nursing facility, when we had her at home, that's what it was. I isolated, really, both of us, um, because I I didn't want her to act, like I said, inappropriately, whatever that may have been, because my thought was, this is, would I know how to handle it? And so, not having those answers, and actually people actually had come around to the house, And I would peek out the window. And like you said, just put it all, because I believe people that are listening to this will understand and be able to relate, at whatever stage they may be, that I would peek out the window and it would be one of like the church friends. And I was just too afraid to go to the door to receive what could have been help.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
And so therefore, it was like I felt like it was me and mom. And it just, it's like I could just see those times even just so clearly. Wow, just being in the house with her where we grew up, and just not knowing how to reach out for
Yeah.
help,
Yeah.
you know.
That
And it's like,
resonates with me deeply. It really does. I'm an only child, and
oh,
my parents were divorced when I was 8. So it was always me and mom against the world kind of thing. And,
yes,
so recently, even after this Resurrection Sunday, Bishop had spoken about tombs and how, you know, Jesus had the power to unbound himself, but he's calling us out of our tombs and into community. So always kind of being this loner and independent woman, and in this cocoon as my mother's person, plus
right,
what, if you will. It really has, this my own caregiving journey has warranted me to be okay with help, to
right,
that you can honor and be a part of a community, because
absolutely.
everyone's journey is going to take a path that may put them in a position of needing help. So
Exactly. That's
yeah,
interesting. That's
yeah,
interesting. Even though, like
yeah,
you mentioned, being independent, that's what makes it a challenge to ask for help, because you probably, you're so used to, being there for people, whoever that may be. And when it came to a time when you need help, I always felt like I don't want to bother anybody, that I was like a burden if I asked for help, or felt like, I couldn't do it, like almost like a failure, that I couldn't take care of this. And the truth of the matter was I couldn't. And you're so right. Those years ago back, I mean, 1993, when it was happening, 1992, 93. I mean, it just was unheard of.
yeah.
And and
I can't
therefore, like you
imagine
said,
the isolation at that time, because now
yeah,
giving is a thing.
it's
It's a
a
thing.
thing. Right. And even though if I knew, back then, what I know now, of course, it would have been so different. But I didn't. And a lot of people, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one there. There was many other people probably, um by themselves, having to like navigate this. And it was for so long, it was so interesting, because a lot of people used to think I was the only child, because in the nursing facility, I was the one going. And because I saw too many times where other people like that were there didn't see other family members going to see them. But it was a tough thing back then, and that's why receiving help. I just, so rather than seeing that I couldn't handle things, I just didn't open the door, to even see if I could,
If it was a
receive
possibility
that
for you.
help.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
I get a
right.
lot of questions in the private Facebook community about, well, how do I help? I'm not a caregiver. How do I help a caregiver? How do I show up for this person? And for me, that was a lot of my why in forming the platform. But in addition, for me personally, in caregiving experience, for me to ask somebody, oh, can you clean out my fridge and organize it? Or can you mop the floor? That seems, disrespectful, versus that's the help I need, versus
Right,
the actual
right.
act of caregiving for my mother is the all of the ancillary stuff that goes with it, the washing, the
Exactly,
clothes, the this, the that. So
exactly. But it's good though, because like you said, you've realize and identify what would help you and your
Right.
journey. That's the thing. We all, and unless we all speak up, unless the people that are in the throes of this, unless you identify what would help you the most, no one will know. And therefore no one will be able to kind of provide that. And sometimes it could just be a couple of hours. You might want to go to a movie or something and need someone to be there, just to supervise and be there with them. That's major.
Yes.
Sometimes just trying to get out of that setting,
Yes.
and that's when people have them at home. That's that part, if you have them at home, and if you're able to have them at home. And that's another part too, is really people that want to keep them at home. How do we do that? Where are the finances for that?
Absolutely. And the future of health is home. Only now is the medicine climate realizing, wow, caregivers have a role and there's transformative and healing power at home. So how do we make that, uh, marry itself well? And how do
Exactly.
we empower caregivers to be educated at their loved one's bedside? So
Exactly.
yes.
And
So
that's important.
I'm sorry. Yes. So
No,
tell us,
yeah.
how does someone get K coaching and how do we find your book? Tell us everything.
Okay. Well, actually, now my book is on Amazon. I've also connected with some people, so I've given my email address, which is Queen Karen Williams at gmail.com, where people have emailed me to actually purchase a book and even just to kind of connect. And
Beautiful.
also actually on my Facebook page, people can find me under Karen Jones Williams, where there's the link to purchase the book that they can get through PayPal.
Beautiful.
But what I've been wanting, actually, my objective really is not just on top of them purchasing the book. To me, it's an investment. Is really, I like to connect with them and just kind of, if they desire, is even to see where they are in their journey and walk with them through it, like no pressure. But I wanted it to be more than, here's this book that I believe can help and help free some people from not being afraid of your emotions and how you're feeling. Some days, people feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. You love the person, you'll always be there, but it's days you feel like throwing in the towel. And so I just want to let people know I understand that this book will let you know the different myriad emotions I went through, and to that they're not alone. And
Absolutely.
they're not alone.
Absolutely. Well, I applaud you. You are honoring your mother even on today. And I am blessed by your story, and CarePod community will be as well. So I'm so thankful that you joined us.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for this space and this platform to be able to
Absolutely.
share. And I pray
Absolutely.
it helps somebody.
Absolutely, it will. Yes. Thank you so much. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
Just be encouraged. Know that you're not alone. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here because that's what we need. Like you mentioned, we need community. We need each other, and you're going to make it.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you so
again.
much,
Okay,
Karen
thank
Williams.
you.
Thank you.
Great information right from the source. For more information on how to caregive like a boss, check out impactfulcaregiving.com. Want to be a guest on the show? Contact us at CarePOD at impactfulcaregiving.com.